Hey, it's Nikki Leonti from Start Your Own Family Daycare, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to talk to you all about observations. Now, doing observations in your family daycare or any early childhood setting can be a little daunting if you're just getting started. Some people ask, I get a lot of questions about this, but some people say, what's noteworthy? What should I be writing down and what should I just kind of leave and what isn't, needed to be written down? So I guess it really depends. There's lots of factors that are involved in this. So as a minimum requirement, you want to have at least one observation per child, and observations can be done in so many different ways. So I'm going to kind of make it really easy and just give you a couple of ways to do them and give you some tips on what you should be noting down. So, okay, if you have a child that only comes to you once a week, that is going to be a little bit harder. You're not going to get to know them as much as a child who's coming 5 days a week. So what I generally do is I just write down, I keep like a notes page for each child. So I use a system called Evernote, and I have a page for each child in there. And I just keep notes on, on things that I thought were relevant, what they liked, what they didn't like. Are they studying toilet training? What kind of level is their language at? Maybe I need to work on something there. All those kinds of things. I just keep notes. So that's a way of, that's a method of observations. Another way you could do it is if you had an app. So there's plenty of different apps out there. One that I love is called Simple Reflect. And there's another one called Kinderloop. Either of those two are great. Simple Reflect is like a whole programming app, as opposed to Kinderloop is really like Facebook for early childhood. So you can go in there and in Simple Reflect, you record your whole plan. So for example, if you're following my yearly guide, you might, in January, we did Australia Day and library visits. So you might have a plan as library visits. And then within that, you might you can put your observations in there of a group of what you did. So for example, we all went to the library and it was the first time for a couple of children, and we learned how the library system works, so that all the books are on shelves. We learnt that they all have a particular number or letter in the kids section. We learned how the library system worked. Okay, so that's one element of that observation. Second thing was that we all learnt how to look for books. So we can look at them based on what their picture is, or we can look at them through the title, and then they're stored in different ways. So we kind of looked at many different systems and how to use a library. And then we spoke about, in this same observation, so this is all under the first visit that we went to, we met the librarians. So we're kind of looking at the community and how people are there to help us in the library. And then, so this is under one group observation of our first visit. Okay, so these are quite noteworthy elements. And then you link it to the EYLF. So there in Simple Reflect, there was an area that you just kind of tick which outcome it is. Okay, so that's the first observation. The second observation is that when we came home, Luca grabbed one of the books and said, oh, this is the monkey book from the library. So you can actually even put that in quotes as what he actually said. And then he continued to sit down and look through the book, and he told me about what the story was. So that is an observation just for Luca. Okay, so, and that was really important. Picking up a book, reading it, might not be as noteworthy for any other particular reason, except that this is part of our plan and we're focusing on the library visit, and he was able to recall and bring that connection back about the library visit. And he also recalled the story because he said, oh, look, this is a monkey book from the library. And then he continued to tell me what happened in the story. So that is quite noteworthy. Okay, so these are kind of the noteworthy stuff that you want to write. It could even be as simple as if you've got a child in their first day, just making an observation about how they coped through the day. You want it to be positive. You don't want it to be all negative stuff. You can reword negative stuff, and as a teacher, we have to do this often because parents don't like hearing negative things. So you want to reword them. For example, Julius, this is just a fake situation. Julius is needing more support in understanding how to participate in a group activity. So that's if they're hitting, they're jumping around, they're screaming, etc., and they can't, they don't really know how it all works yet. Okay, so that, that's a positive way of saying, what's really happening in that group environment. So other things that you could do for your observations include if a child is learning how to ride a bike, so maybe you have some scooters or bikes out there and they're learning how to ride it, so you could take photos and how they progress over time. And if you're not using an app, you can just put it into a Word document or a Pages document, or use Evernote like I use as well, which is a great system because it's all kind of online and you can access it on your iPad, your phone, and your computer. So that's kind of what the observations are. It's really looking at how children are progressing, you could do a series of observations. So if you take a snapshot of today that a child's sitting at the drawing table, for example, and then next week, oh look, they're picking up a pencil and they're wanting to learn how to hold it properly. And then maybe the week after, it's like, well, now they're wanting to write their name, or they're starting to do some scribbles, which they recognize as writing, which is all part of early literacy. So you want to look at those progression, and that's why it's important to think about what you're doing, what that child's interested in, where do you think it might go, what is part of your plan, and then make those little dot points. You don't have to do massive learning stories for every single tiny observation because that's going to take you a lot of time. A picture truly does tell 1,000 words. So if you try and get a picture of the whole environment, so you can get an idea of, is the child participating in that activity on their own? Are they with a group? Who are they with? Are they always with the same person every activity? All that kind of stuff is great to have in that picture, and you can use that as part of your observations. Okay, I hope that has made it a little bit clearer. Let's just summarize, because I feel like sometimes I can talk a bit too long. Okay, so let's summarize. You can either do your observations on Pages, Word, Evernote, etc., some kind of computer system. You can do your observations in a notebook. You can do your observations on an app, Kinderloop, or Simple Reflect. Okay, so that's generally the 3 ways you can do it. You can do different types of observations. You can do learning stories if it's a massive learning story, and that could be as a whole group. You could do individual or small group learning story, okay? You could just do notes. So it's kind of, you just take notes each day of how the child's progressing. And again, you do need to link these to the EYLF. You could just take photos and do a summary about the photos, about what's happening in those photos, and again, link it to the EYLF. So they're kind of the basic ways to do observations. There are so many other ways, and there's so many templates out there. Don't get overwhelmed. Just stick with even just taking notes to start with, and then build it up. Don't forget to ask your scheme as well. Your scheme should really be a point of call. Unfortunately, a lot of them aren't, which is disappointing. And one of the reasons why I set this up, because I do want to be able to help more people. And sometimes the schemes of so many educators, they can't go around and give them that one-on-one advice that I'm trying to give you here through these videos. All right, I will see you very soon. I hope you got a lot out of it. Please share. Check out the other videos I have available as well. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye.